Hello everyone, welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast. Joined by a stellar team this week, including Matchbook's very own Micheál Deasy, more on him very shortly. Daily Mirror's Value Scope and Value Raters, all the values, Steve Jones, and AtTheRaces.com's Declan Rix to preview a really good weekend's racing. It's sort of a warm to middling fare before we launch into the Christmas period where our minds will officially be blown with the amount of quality coming your way over that 4 days after Christmas and there on in. But we're looking at Haydock and Ascot in the main 6 races. They're the ITV races. They're easy for you to find and 6 races for you to get stuck into this Saturday. Micheál Deasy, first of all, we need to blow some smoke in your direction. I won't be too specific with where it's going, but you're on fire. I mean, last week was ridiculous. I think we previewed 7 races. There were 5 winners put up. Jonesy found a couple of them, but you found all 5 of them, including a laying of all the gin joints. If only you just bundled them all into one big acca, which I know you didn't do. But I mean, I take it the wife's made you breakfast every morning this week, right?
Oh, she didn't get much of that money. No, it was spent on Sunday in a pub with a few of the lads watching football. But no, she was happy. Yeah, it was really good. It was like it went very well. Thank God. I really enjoyed it. And like as Sam Turner said before to me, that it was like it's nearly better tipping a winner than backing a winner. Great satisfaction last week. And being an Irishman, I'm not really comfortable with loads of praise. Like so, I was very weird doing when you're all saying, "Great job, great job."
He absolutely loved it. Let's be honest, he loved it. Look, it wasn't just short price winners as well. You found one at 21.0, another couple at double figures. It was a solid 40 points of profit for you. So well done. Now, put your Matchbook hat back on and tell us about the ongoing offer that Matchbook have got for us. Take it away.
No bother. So we have a sign-up offer at the moment, which is bet 10, get 10. So if you sign up for Matchbook today, come in, you can place a bet of £10 or more at odds of 2.0 or more on any market on the site, and when it settles, we will give you £10. So there you go.
Beautifully done. He's not just a tipster; he can also read a caption, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very good indeed. Should we get? I want to say hello again to Rixie. I feel like I haven't spoken to you for ages. You are taking time out between directing aeroplane traffic to preview 6 races for us. How are you, Rixie? You good?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend's action. How's your punting been since we last spoke?
It's jump season started very good. The last couple of weeks it has died off a bit, to be fair. But yeah, look, that's the way it goes. We're still ahead, still kind of nicely ahead for the year. But yeah, definitely the last couple of weekends. I'll basically tell you the bet that summed up my current run of form is I backed Silver Streak without Epitante and without So Royal in the fighting 5th, and he obviously got carried out at the second obstacle, and then he last weekend in the international then finishes well ahead of So Royal, so he wasn't going to beat bloody Epitante, obviously, but I didn't need him to. So I had a good go at that a couple of weeks ago. So that's kind of subbed it all up. So we go another weekend, we can get the ball rolling again.
Jonesy's been banging on about Silver Streak for a long time, and I think he's still half convinced that Silver Streak would have won the fighting 5th. So there you go. Yeah, I know Jonesy's a huge fan of the horse. So don't you worry about that. Listen, can I throw a curveball at you, Steve Jones, just as we hear from you? Any trainers that you've got in mind as we get stuck into the maybe heavier ground Christmas period that you're looking at who may be turning a corner, or you might just be thinking, well, siding with them, I'm going to be a bit ahead of the market? Is there anyone that you've got in mind for that's just coming good at this time of year?
I wish you'd have asked me that with a bit of notice, because off the top of my head, I'm not so sure. I always think when the ground is bad, you want a trainer that is in form, because by definition, it's more taxing, and it probably the ground exposes maybe a little bit of poor stable form. There's a few. Harry Whittington, I know, is not having many runners at the moment, so you want to be looking at trainers that are in decent form, and let's face it, there are a few around, so it's not all bad. And I think I think Philip Hobbs has got some good chances this weekend, and he's starting to really hit form. So that would be one that I would chuck in there.
Did he have a treble yesterday, or is it 3 of the last 5 as runners won? He definitely had a double yesterday. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
See, it's a beautifully handled question. I love it. Just a curveball, and you've dealt with it brilliantly. Exactly, batted it out the park. That's better than Jonesy's batting. One day we'll get to the story where I ran Steve Jones out, having him done a 4-hour round trip. He just wasn't quick enough out the blocks. There you go.
I think it was 5 hours actually, but we're not counting.
Who's counting? Right, let's get stuck into the preview then. So first of 6 races coming up from Ascot. These are all the terrestrial races, ITV races that are on terrestrial on Saturday afternoon. And first of them we'll get stuck into is the 150. It's for the Love of Racing Handicap Chase. Again, with most of these races, actually, rather than just read out the prices, we'll come to who we fancy, and then Deasy can give you those prices. But Rix, it's been a while since we spoke, so you can kick us off. Who is catching your eye in this and why?
Yeah, look, I thought kind of this weekend, we should probably mention before we get stuck into this, it looks like the ground's going to be pretty wet everywhere, and there's more rain forecast for Ascot overnight, I think Friday into Saturday. So by the time the horses are running on Saturday, it looks like they're going to be running on proper, maybe even heavy ground. And Haydock, as we know, is just constantly heavy all year round. So it's going to be tough work for horses. It's going to be tough work for pundits as well, I think, because the racing looks very competitive this weekend. But look, I just thought with good course form on proper soft ground, if that rain does come to tomorrow night, I thought Benny's King could go well, despite kind of being up near the top of the weights. I just think he's a quite likeable horse, and he made a satisfactory return at Aintree a good few weeks ago now, where I just thought that the sharp nature of the test, given the track and given the pace they went, probably just played against him, on top of him kind of shaping like he'd come on for the race. That was a decent race at Aintree. That team that's kind of working out pretty well now. The form has a solid look to it. I just think with him, he's got good form over at Ascot in heavy ground and over a trip kind of over further than he's going to be running at. So the only thing I would say is I would hope Harry Skelton, who's going to be riding him for the Dan Skelton team, makes plenty of use of his stamina. To be fair, you've got Mengele Khan in here, Benny's King, Saint Afasi, Cap Gary and Enrichi Son. They all like to get on with things, so it could kind of for the trip turn out to be a bit of a stamina test. And for my horse to win, I think he's going to need that. So I hope they go a good gallop. I hope they get the rain, and I hope Harry Skelton makes plenty of use of him. So yeah, I'm gonna stick up Benny's King at the prices.
Benny's King, who is likely to be up there, and I think Sandavasi is almost certain to be one going forward. And there are plenty of pace options in the race. Dees, what price Benny's King?
2 seconds. I know Benny's King is currently 8.6.
8.6 for Benny's King. Would you be, Rixie, that a win and place bet for you?
I think probably I'll be doing a lot of win only bets this weekend, given the ground. And it all depends on individual races and individual horses. But to be honest, I think I would be a little bit disappointed if he was out of the 3. Just given how good the Dan Skelton team, how good their form is at the moment. He's got good course form and proper heavy ground. If someone wanted to back him each way, I wouldn't have any. I think he's the most solid horse in the race, but I think it's going to be a win only weekend for me with a lot of horses, to be honest.
Can I ask you just expand on that ever so slightly? Is that because with the testing nature of the ground, if you get it wrong as a tipster putting up a horse, and they don't go and win the race, they might completely bottom out because of the ground, and therefore you're less likely to play win and place, and you just go win only. Is that the angle there? It
is, but it probably actually doesn't apply to this lad, to be fair, because I do think he's solid. The only worry I have with me is he's coming back in trip to 2 miles, 2 furlongs, I think, maybe an extended 2-2, and I do think he has got form over further, but that could potentially be a good thing if they go a good gallop and Harry Skelton uses them, because as we kind of touched on before we previewed the race, it does look like a weekend of racing that's going to turn into a bit of a war of attrition. And for him to win this race, I do think he probably needs a little bit of a war of attrition to win, but I could easily see him hitting the places, because in my mind he is the most solid horse in the race, but he is open to kind of more progressive sorts because he is a 9-year-old.
I'll jump in before we go to the lads that have been in really good form and just give a shout to Sant Sonnet, who has had 3 starts at Cheltenham. His last 3 starts, that was off the back of his UK win first up. I don't really know what to make of the fact that Paul Nicholls threw him into Grade 1 company on his second start at Cheltenham. Whether it's because he thinks he's that good or he was just doing a Paul Nicholls thing and just seeing what he had. But I think it's got to be a good thing. Last time wasn't his fault whatsoever. He was being ridden patiently at the back of the field. He was really well supported as well for that handicap. I think he about halved in price, and then he was all but brought down. So you can forgive him that slightly. I think there's still enough value in the price, so just give him a chance. If there's just a chance that a mark of the mid 140s, given where Paul Nicholls threw him in second start, that he could be a lot better than that. And actually, he ran to a mark above that, probably early 150s. I thought at Cheltenham on that occasion. So I feel that if there's a horse who could just be really well treated, it's him. Look, he's got to get round because he obviously pulled up last time, although that wasn't his fault, but he did fall prior to that. So there are some question marks to answer. I quite like the fact that he's away from Cheltenham as well, and just 3 starts at Cheltenham. The last 2 really haven't worked out. Just changing up a bit with Sant Sonnet. The tongue tie went on last time as well when he was well supported. So what sort of price are we looking at these for him?
Sant Sonnet is 8.0.
I could 8.0. I can take that. 8.0. I'm happy with that. I think that's that's fair enough. Oh, it's a good job we're not doing the 0 drinking game, isn't it? We'd be blotted by the end. Yeah, I'll take that. Again, it would be small stakes equal win and place for him. And if he doesn't get round now, I think it's very much back to the drawing board. Deasy, go on. You're the man on fire. So what are you going with?
Yes, I'd be happy with 1 winner this weekend now because it is tough. But this one is actually one of my stronger ones for the weekend. There was 2 that I fancy for this. It was Drumcliff and Early Dilemma. I think this might be a tough old run for Early Dilemma though, because I'm afraid that he'll bounce. He was off for a long time, but I thought he ran very well the last time, and he could be a good horse. The reason I've gone for Drumcliff is Anya O'Connor is gone over to ride him. She's 2 from 3 in the horse. He'll be fine heavy ground, and he's generally running over further. He's run over 2 mile 5, that kind of thing. He was unlucky enough the last time to Aspire de Guy. I thought he ran a good race, and they admitted the last, and he was kind of just done for speed in the flat. I think that he's 10.0. I think he's a great chance this. I think he has course form. He should be fine on the ground, and he stays further, which I think will help. So Drumcliff for me in this.
Again, win and place. Is sort of equal stakes across the both?
Win and place, yeah. Maybe a small bit more on the place just in case. We go 40-60.
And Jonesy, for you were talking about Philip Hobbs being in form. Is it a Hobbsy horse who you're looking at?
Yeah, it is, and I'm quite strong on this, Smarty Wild. There's reasons to think in the form book last time at Wetherby, he went down as official. It didn't jump well in rear. Well, I thought that was a little bit unfair because he looked to be taken off his feet earlier. It was the flat 2 miles. He's going up to nearly 2.3 today, which I think will help. And he sort of landed on one of the fences early on, and I think it frightened him a bit because he didn't travel very well after that. And then he looked like he was going to get into it, but the effort that he used up trying to get back into the race, I think took its toll. So I think if you go back to his chase debut, which was at Ascot over this course and distance behind Sully Dock, he jumped perfectly okay, especially for a horse making his debut at a tough track like Ascot. I thought he jumped really well. I think Rixie mentioned that the fast pace is likely to be the pace is likely to be fast in this race, and that'll help him because he does like to go from off the pace. He's well enough handicap for me. He won off this mark over hurdles, so he's got a lot going for him. And I think they were a bit unfair to him, Wetherby. And the other thing was that was only his second run left-handed. He ran 9 times over hurdles. 8 of those were right-handed, and his worst run, in fact, the only time he ran poorly was when he ran left-handed at Cheltenham. So that might have been another reason why he didn't go particularly well at Wetherby. But you go back to that Ascot run, I thought that was particularly solid. So I'm really keen on Smarty Wild. If his jumping does hold up, he's got a great chance. But I can also answer one of your questions. Why is Sant Sonnet ran in that Grade 1, he wasn't qualified for any of the handicaps because he'd only run twice over fences.
That is a very good. And so just on that, do you think Nichols would have been? Why is he running then? Because he thinks he's good enough to compete, or just because he doesn't have an option in a handicap, he's not going to run in a Grade 1 just for the sake of it, is he? He must still think he's got a half decent horse. But equally, as he's done with Petit Soin in the past, he's chucked him into a handicap and won it at Cheltenham. He would have done the same. You would imagine, had this horse been qualified for handicaps, he would have thrown him into a handicap and taken advantage of what would have looked like a lenient mark, right?
Yeah, you want runners at Cheltenham at the Cheltenham Festival, don't you? Maybe that was part of it. He had one impressively at Catterick, and he did have decent hurdles for me in France. So, I mean, Paul Nichols knows what he's got, and he didn't run awfully behind Sam Crow. So I don't know, but I wouldn't sort of use it as a reason to be positive about him dropping back, because that was basically their only option. It was either running that or not run at Cheltenham.
Good stuff. Anything else to add to this race, gentlemen? No? We're going to take the love of racing into the next race that we're going to be previewing. It's the 205 at Haydock. Betfair Exchange Handicap Hurdle, Class 2 contest, 2 mile 3. Warlord, who Don McLean put up on the pod at a fair old price last time, heads the betting here. Goodness me, it's got a bit of depth to it, this contest. Are we out and out looking for heavy ground horses, DC? You must be, right? You're looking for something that's going to appreciate a bit of a swim.
I am, yeah. I think it's going to be very, very bad at Haydock tomorrow. I was checking the weather forecast, and there's rain even tonight and during the day tomorrow. So the one I've gone for is the Last Day. Now, he has been chasing. I think he was a highly enough rated chaser. They kind of fancied him, and he's actually rated 7 pounds higher over fences. So he's making his season debut today. He loves heavy ground. Evan Williams says he needs really deep ground. There's a few of these here. I don't think they will love it. I think Electron Blue might be a shout as well at a price to place, but I think the Last Day has a good chance of winning this. I think he's a high enough class horse. He won very well in heavy ground in Shepstow over hurdles a few years ago, and I just think it's interesting that they're giving him a run back in a hurdle race. It might be a pipe opener, but I think that if it's very attritional, like, he will stay at the trip. He loved the ground, and he is 6.0 at the moment. So I'll go for him win only.
6.0 for the Last Day for a team in form. That's one of the stock Irish phrases. The Last Day, isn't it?
The Last Day.
You got the Last Day. He ran well the last day.
Oh,
I'm not going to do an Irish accent.
The Last
and
Day.
The other one,
I say last time out, but I've heard that before.
the other one is from the back of the last.
From the back of the last, yeah. Made up great.
He pinged the last.
Pinged, yeah. Very
Ping.
good.
He pinged it.
Great accent there, Rixie. Love it. You just turned it on. Who'd you like, Rixie?
Yeah, look, I thought I'd be, if I could get the prices off Deasy, I think that would be a help here, because I think my selection is definitely going to be price orientated. Just if we could get the prices on Sharico Vallis, Warlord, and Our Power Deasy, that would be great.
I'll just rack them all off there. Warlord is 3.8, Albert's Back is 4.3, Our Power is 6.6, The Last Day 6.0, Sharico Vallis is 7.0, McGowan's Pass is 9.2, and then Electron Blue and Secret Stream are about 18.0.
Okay, well, Our Power is probably a little bit bigger than I would have there, but look, I think probably the key form race, as the betting probably suggests, is that racing only better. Oh, geez, shouldn't be giving another podcast to plug, but anyway, it's too late now. Is that handicap that the Warlord and Our Power ran in the Last Day at, I think it was Betfair Chase Day, wasn't it, at Haydock? And I've got to say, I do, as a horse, I do like Warlord, and as a horse, I like Our Power as well. Our Power, to my eye, just looks like he's in great form this year. He's travelling and jumping for fun, but I've never really had him down as a kind of a heavy ground horse. I'd always think he'd do better. Warlord is a very good horse. He travels for fun. He's got a good
Take a pause.
Go break up, yeah.
Take a pause for us there. You're just breaking up a bit. Take a minute
back?
for us.
Sorry, where did?
You're back.
Jumbo Jet just went over and Rix doesn't know which machine.
The bloody doorbell is going out and I'm the only fella in the house, so this is very awkward. I tell you what, I'm going to take a break. Get the door, and you boys.
Great stuff. Rix is going to go and answer the door. It might be Nigel Twiston-Davis.
It used to be the fire alarm going off in the ATR office when he was there. And now it's the doorbell.
It'll be Twiston-Davis in his duffel coat. Why are you putting up my horse? I'm going to pick up where Rixie left off because he is my selection in the race, Our Power. If you go back and look at the race last time, won by Warlord. I mean, I'm centering a couple of my plays around that race last time because I think Arrivederci's got a good chance as well over at Ascot, but I'll come to that. Arrivederci came down. He just stepped at, I think it was a third last, and he brought down or he hampered Our Power, who did well to stay on his feet. And then if you pick up off the back of the last, it looked as though Our Power was going to finish a well-held third, and he does finish third, but he's only a 3 1/4 length third. He kept on really, really well. I sort of have those same concerns, Rixie, that you mentioned about the ground a little bit because his Kempton form over 2.5 have been on decent ground, but he handled soft that day. And I just think sticking at this trip, that's why the testing ground is a good thing. If this was over further, I'd have a little bit of a worry, but I'm willing to side with him. I think 6.0, he's bigger than I thought he'd be. I can't see why there's that big a gap between I know Warlord won the race, but why has he doubled the price when Warlord's gone up £7, Our Power's gone up £1, and I think without the hampering, you can argue that Our Power would have beaten him. So Our Power's my selection in the race at 6.0. Back to you, Rixie. If I sort of basically said what you said, essentially.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I totally agree with you. The price differential between the two of those is mad, to be honest. Especially if you be of the opinions some of the Tizzard horses are still a bit in and out. I know this guy Warlord has been performing very well in his own right this year, but I don't know about the rest of the team, but I just couldn't back any Tizzard horses with confidence at the moment. You know, some of them are running well, some of them are running absolutely terribly. Some good horses have been running absolutely terribly. You know, it's a bit mad. So, but yeah, look, what I came down in the end was actually Chirico Vallis because there didn't look a whole lot of pace in here, and I thought he might get a bit of an easy lead himself, and maybe McGowan's pass. Electron Blue can be up there. But I just thought he might get an easy lead up front. Kevin Brogan's having a very good year. He's taken £7 off, and it was his claim of £7, along with Chirico Vallis coming in here fresher than Warlord and Our Power, who we have to remember probably had very hard races that day at Haydock, because that was the day I think was one of the slowest times ever for the Betfair Chase, if I remember. Yeah. So, and they went a good gallop that day as well, so they might have had tough races. So my angle in here was basically Kevin Brogan's claim was one, that the two market leaders having tough races last time out, and Chirico Vallis potentially maybe having an easy lead. So just at the prices, I thought he was the one I'd side with here.
He was about 7.0, was he?
7.0, yeah.
Okay, good stuff. Go on, Jonesy. Do you agree with any of us on that? Are you going left field?
Yeah, Rixie said it all for me. I do like Chirico Vallis. I like Kevin Brogan. I think he's well worth the £7 claim. The only thing I would disagree with Rixie is that he doesn't want a soft lead. He just wants to go out and gallop. And at Haydock, that is quite a big advantage. It's a front runner's track for me. It's not easy to come from off the pace. We saw Main Fact did it, which is perhaps a pointer to his chance elsewhere. But I think Chirico Vallis from the front with a really good jockey on board, they'll struggle to get past him, I think.
Just to follow up on that, I on the flat sometimes have it in mind when it's testing ground, it's very hard to peg horses back. Is it more of a thing for you, Jonesy, from the front of Haydock when the ground is particularly bad, or is it just a Haydock thing?
The ground's never particularly anything else, is it?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
I do think it's quite a sharp track these days. They changed it a good few years ago. From the days when Twin Oaks was going around there over those huge fences. It's not that sort of track anymore, and it isn't easy to come from off the pace over any trip over there. And you often see front runners going in, even though it's a long straight. You would think that it would be perhaps a bit fairer, but it is front runners for me.
Okay, good stuff. That's a competitive 2 mile 3 handicap hurdle we preview. We get onto the feature, the grade 1 on the day, which is the Porsche Long Walk Hurdle, 4:25 at Ascot. I've got half a mind. I think Paisley Park won't run here, given what happened last year. I don't know. Off levels, of course, with Philip Hobbs's horse, who I would probably side with if push Time Hill personally, but I'll let others make a case first. Jonesy, I'm interested to hear your thoughts here.
Well, I think last year Emma Lavelle walked the track and she wasn't happy. It wasn't with the ground. I think that she thought there were a few holes in there and she got a bit jittery and Paisley Park didn't run and the World's End won. And so it's a far, far more competitive race this year. I think the market's got it right. Time Hill, Paisley Park, they're sort of the same price. And I think that's about right because at Newbury, Time Hill won quite nicely, I thought, was getting £3 off Paisley Park. So that suggests with the run under his belt that Paisley Park should get a bit closer. But I think Time Horse is a really nice horse. He's only 6, so the natural progression that you would expect from him. He went through the race really easily. I know it was better ground, but he's got form on soft. He was very unlucky in the Albert Bartlett last year when he was squeezed out twice on the run-in, and he didn't have a great position during the race. To get into the race from there was exceptional, and I thought it was a strong Albert Bartlett. He's a nice young horse. Paisley Park blew out. I think did they say he had a heart problem in the stayers? I think he had such a fantastic 2 years, and I think he might just be a little bit vulnerable now. And Time Hill, an exciting young horse, I would side with him. But the great thing with Matchbook is you can lay these horses as well and lay them to place. And the one thing with the market, I thought that Time Hill and Paisley Park weren't far enough in front of the rest. And the one in there that I cannot have at any price is Roxana. And I know she was impressive at Weatherby, but I thought most of her dangers that day were being lined up for going over fences. And although she's very consistent, her worst run that she's had probably in over hurdles came at Ascot, came right-handed. She's a horse that runs mostly left-handed. She ran at Sandown when she was third to Bouvardere, third of 5, and then 5th or 6th to If the Cap Fits at Ascot, and the rest has been left-handed. So that's a negative. I think the fact that 3 miles on really heavy ground is going to tax her. She's not done much racing at 3 miles. I thought she used her pace at Weatherby rather than her stamina, and the fact that I didn't think the Weatherby race was all it was cracked up to be. So this is a very deep race with the likes of Main Fact, who I mentioned, came from off the pace at Haydock to win that really hot handicap, which isn't easy to do. And then you've got horses like, I wouldn't put the Jam Man out of it, and the World's End won it last year. It thrives on deep ground. So I can't have Roxana in the frame. So anywhere near 2.4 to lay, I would be interested in that.
So if you're going to have a bet in the race, it'd be Time Hill. You'd have him on side, and you're place laying Roxana, the unexposed staying hurdler who bolted up in a grade 2 last time, who beat Apple's Jade over 3 miles and just was a nose second to If the Cap Fits over 3 miles. Place laying her.
That's the one.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
What price would you give Jones, to place layer, Tom?
What price
would you give Jones? What price would you lay her to place?
Now, just because I'm playing devil's advocate doesn't mean I don't agree with him. I'm trying to get a bit of neat. I totally agree. I totally agree that I think she was a little bit shorter early on. What is she now? Is she about 8.0?
She is 8 points. I'm just 2 seconds on up. 7.8.
Yeah, I can't. I can't say there's any value there. I think she might struggle. I think there are 5 stronger stayers than her in the field, and I hadn't even looked at which way round she's going, whether that would be an issue. But I know there are going to be some people that see her as an unexposed stayer who's getting a weight allowance and can serve it up to these. I'm not in that camp, but I think there will be some people, Steve, who do see it that way.
Yeah, and none of them will be in the queue behind Deasy to get the beef satay because they'll all be skinned.
Deasy, who do you like and why?
We should just mention as well that, like, for anyone who's watching this who doesn't know about place leg, so place leg means that she's not going to finish in the top three, and if she's a price of 2.5, you would have to put up 15 quid to win a tenner. So that's how place leg works. Just for anyone who doesn't know and is new to exchanges. My bet, I found this very hard. I think Time Hill should be clear favourite.
What have we got? What have we got at the moment at the top of the market? The Paisley Park Time Hill.
Paisley Park is 3.25, and then you have Time Hill at 3.3. Main Fact and Roxanne are both 7.8, and then you have big prices for the rest of them. You Never Call is 29.0, Thistlecrack is 32.0, Third Wind is 32.0, The World's End is 38.0, and Portrush Head is 44.0. So I was going through this, and like, I mean, out of Time Hill and Paisley Park, you have to back this year's horse. You can't be backing a horse based on last year's form or 2 years ago. So I think Time Hill is favourite. So I think Main Fact has a chance as well, but I think he's a skinny enough price considering this is the hardest race he'll ever run. And so I've gone for a flyer on You Never Call, Kim Bailey's horse. I backed him early in the week at 46.0 anti-post. I thought he'd come in a bit more, but he's 29.0 at the moment. So he absolutely smashed on the blind side a few years ago, and the blind side was hurdling on the final day at Sandown. I'd never heard of him before, but he beat him by 9 lengths very, very easily. He's been out for nearly a year and a half, but he was ready to run in the spring before all the festivals were cancelled. He was never going to Cheltenham. He can only go right-handed. That's what his trainer said. So he has that here. He's going on a right-handed track. He staged 3 miles. He had his comeback run a few weeks ago off top weight in a Pertemps qualifier and actually tried to win it, which is rare enough for horses in Pertemps qualifiers. He finished second, giving away, I think, 17 or 18 pounds to the horse that beat him by a head. I think he's a great galloper. He jumps. He hasn't got a lot of races in him for a 9-year-old. I think he's a massive price. He could be fairly high class. And at 29.0, I probably have a small bit on the win and a good bit on the place, just in the hope that he'll stay. But even that some of these horses will come out, that he'll stay past tired horses who don't make it. I would be worried about the ground, but I think at 29.0, he's well worth a place bet and a small win just in case.
I think those groundouts are factored in very much so for the yard in form. Rixie for the Porsche Long Walk.
Well, yeah, I'm going to have some egg in my face because I've gone completely the other way. I'm big time in the Paisley Park camp here. I thought his comeback run, given the health problems that he had at Newbury, was brilliant. There was a couple of real positives for me. I suppose the first thing in terms of Time Hill is he's going to be £3 better off with him now. So £3, he was only beaten a length and a half, and £3 over this trip is over 3 lengths. So in theory, on that day at Newbury, even though Paisley Park was beaten, he was the better horse. The other thing would be just in terms of, I'd mentioned size and physiques. These two are pretty chalk and cheese. Paisley Park looks a big kind of burly chasing type who's stayed over hurdles. Time Hill on the other hand is kind of a light framed kind of bonny little horse who would probably jump a fence. But I think the two of those made their seasonal debuts, and I think Time Hill is just probably, judging by physiques, is probably the horse who was likely to be a lot fitter that day. So with Paisley Park going to strip a lot fitter, I think, than Time Hill, with £3 better off, I think he's probably the one to go with. And the thing with Paisley Park that really encouraged me the last day was even though he was beaten, he ran like the old Paisley Park. He hit that flat spot, he jumped well, and he came home really nicely. That was all there. So look, I'm inclined to kind of maybe put the heart worries now to one side, to be honest, given he ran to a very good level first time up and will strip fitter. So look, we'll see. The only thing I would say is I've always thought Paisley Park is better on much nicer ground. So, heavy ground, I'm not sure is going to be massively in his favour. But look, we'll see. Soft ground should be fine, but we'll have to see how much rain falls. But he is the class horse. Peak Paisley Park should be even money for this race. The old Paisley Park who won that Stayers hurdle a couple of seasons ago. He will absolutely mince this lot if he can get back to that level. And I think what we saw at Newbury, there is a chance that could happen. And finally, just kind of wrapping up on my drivel on this race, I would just say, from a pace perspective, Portrush Ted and the World's End are the only two kind of pace setters in the race. I don't think it's going to turn into a war of attrition here, especially if they get the ground. So we shall see what way it pans out. But I know a lot of people said Paisley Park was most inconvenienced by the lack of a gallop they went at Newbury the last day. I wouldn't really agree with that. I think Paisley Park, when he's been at his best, while he is a very good stayer, he's got a real touch of class and he has got gears for a staying horse. So I don't think whatever way the race pans out, it won't be particularly against Paisley Park. Just the only little worry I have in my mind is he's always done everything easier on much nicer ground. So yeah, that's Paisley Park for me. I think he should be fav.
Great. We're split on this race because I'd be with Jonesy there and thinking that Time Hill should be fav. I've been stung going after horses who've had these heart issues in the past, and I can never quite get it right. So it's enough of a negative and an unknown for me, particularly on what could be testing ground. I just wonder if it will be built into Connection's minds as well, not wanting to be too hard. I know it's a grade 1, but it just concerns me. So I would be in I think Time Hill should be favourite camp. So there you go. We're split on that one. Let's kick on to Tommy Whittle. This is surely going to be a test. Go on, Deasy, why don't you kick us off with prices and take us through what the market looks like at the moment, and that may inform our decisions.
Yeah, no bother. So Sojourn is 4.4, Hill 16 is 4.8, Roll Again is 7.6, On Guard is 8.4, Crixus Escape is 8.8, Highest Sun is 10.5, and they do big prices, the rest of them. One of the ones that are big prices I didn't mention.
What price is Salty Boy?
Salty Boy is 20.0.
Yeah,
Go on, Rixie.
He had such a good weekend a couple of weeks ago. He doesn't even name out all the horses anymore. It's just all gone to his head. He's not even mentioned.
There's not enough Irish Raiders this week. That's Deasy's problem.
Oh, well, this is the only one.
This is a former Irish horse, to be fair, so I'm surprised he didn't get a mention.
You obviously fancy him then, Rixie.
Well, I just think at the weights, I think he's got a chance, but I'm not totally convinced about the trip for him. That's the only thing. But I just think in terms of pure handicap ratings and stuff like that, with a good jockey in Micheál Bastian taking a further £3 up, I think he's got a chance here. He's been running well this year, Salty Boy, in good races. And he's been jumping. The two times he's run this year, he's ran at, it was Sandown and then he ran at Ascot, both right-handed tracks. And in both races, he's actually jumped left. So I think getting back onto a left-handed track will suit him here. And the last day at Ascot, he was a little bit lazy through the middle part of his race. So I think it's a very good move. They've put cheek pieces on him. So I think he's got a better chance basically than the market implies. That's all it is. So what did you say what price he was there, DC? 25.0?
No, 20.0.
20.0, yeah.
You could post up and try and get 25, Rixie.
Yeah, no, I think he probably will potentially be a little bit bigger here. But we were discussing earlier in the pod about kind of each way betting and win only. This would definitely be a win only bet for me here now, because he couldn't be a confident selection. I just, as Jonesy kind of suggested earlier, I don't hold up horses are not really my thing around Haydock either. It's amazing how many good horses who don't travel at Haydock you see beaten very early in races, and good horses now. Like if you don't travel, you tend to get pulled up here. You know your fate pretty early, but I'm hoping the cheek pieces will spark him into a bit of life here. So yeah, look, he's with a decent trainer as well in David Bridgewater now, who's done well with staying handicappers in the past. The conditional one, the Giant Bolts, or the other. So it's a bit of a shot in the dark now, but I just thought from a price perspective he was the most overpriced horse in the race, and from a handicap perspective I think he's got a very good chance. I just need him to travel a little bit better through the middle and early part of his race, and I need him to stay a bit as well. So it does comes with a lot of risks, but look, we're getting a huge price about him. So I'm willing to take a win-only shot at him at those kind of prices.
At a big price, and more on the conditional shortly. Jonesy, what about you?
It's pretty boring for me. I thought Sojourn was probably the one at the top of the market. Won very impressively at Carlisle in November. Has got a good record fresh, so I can see why some people might use that as a stick to beat him, but he hasn't stood much racing. He's had a nice break since Carlisle, 6 weeks or so. And I just thought the way he went through that race on heavy ground, he also won it market racing on heavy. He'll handle the conditions. He'll be in the right place up the front end. And I think he's a classy horse. He went up £11 for that at Carlisle, but there was a stack of winners in behind him and he blew them away. I think he's a really nice staying prospect. So Sojourn for me.
I'll follow you in there. I thought that it was just enough of an absence, 48 days off. And Anthony Hannibal said he is a best horse fresh. And maybe that caught him out when he was beaten by Dominateur at Chepstow. That was off the back of a month off. He obviously made his reappearance at Carlisle, won on heavy ground. But I think that's,
It wasn't a bad run at Chepstow, though, last season, was it?
It wasn't bad by any stretch. He
did back it up.
No,
he didn't flop. He didn't completely bomb out. He did back it up. He was only beaten. It was a real attritional race, that. So if he was one of those that, as we say, bounce, he didn't do that. So I'm not. Like you say, he's had a nice break, 48 days since he won at Carlisle. So I'm not all that worried.
I think when I do my studying on the Racing Post and have done for as long as I can remember, and when they introduced, I think a year or so ago, that you used to have to work out how long they'd had off, and then they've introduced the line. Maybe it was a couple of years ago now. With exactly how many days they had off. So it's very easy to see their record fresh, but they obviously don't do it for 48 days. But I think if you know a horse, and Anthony Hannibal and the team know what they're doing with the horse, 48 days is long enough to freshen up a horse who's best fresh. Surely, it's not like they're trying to cram it into 20 days. So I don't think we can necessarily use that as an excuse if it doesn't go here. So I thought I thought he should be clear favourite, and I know he is just about when the matchbook is changed, but it wouldn't be a huge shout, particularly at Haydock, given what the ground's going to be like. And I can see Nigel Twiston Davis's horse going well, 2 from 2 from the yard and back over fences again here. And I thought stayed on really well last time, but I thought Sojourn, given the ground is going to be very testing, was the safer bet. Dees.
Yeah, it was Sojourn for me, because I'd say getting 3 mile 2 at Carlisle in heavy ground takes some doing, and this is going to be very, very heavy and be a hard race. But again, he's quite skinny in the price, and he's being backed as well, so he's probably going to go off shorter. He's 4.4 at the moment. I could see him going off definitely less than 4.0, maybe 3.75 or something. I thought this is Hill 16 as well. I'd say he's obviously quite a high class horse, because they made no effort at all to protect his mark in both races this season. He won his first chase by 46 lengths or something like that. But again, this is a tough enough test from. The one I thought was quite interesting was Dr. Richard Nolan's horse On Card. So he has been bought from France. Killing Leopard is on him. You love that, Rix, don't you? He's running off 10-2 now. He's had two runs in novice hurdles so far this year, and one handicap hurdle and one novice hurdle, and he won the novice hurdle by 4 lengths very easily. He pulls fairly hard, and he will get out the front. But he's been thrown in here now to a staying handicap chase on his third run. Richard Nolan knows the time of day, lads. If the money comes for this horse, he's in off a very low weight as well. He'd be running off effectively 10 stone 2. Getting another 2 stone from Sojourner and Hill 16. He's 8.0 at the moment. I think he could be a nice sneaky one for this, but it wouldn't be very, very strong on him. It was just an angle I thought was worth looking at, especially with the trainer and the fact that he's trying straight into this kind of level of race on his first chase start in the UK.
So if we're going to pin you down to a player in the race, if you don't mind, Dees, given that you're the man in form, and when we're retrospectively congratulating you,
I'll go for On Card, yeah.
Oh God, over Sojourn, you wouldn't even have a little on Sojourn, no?
If I was, I'd back him, no, but no.
You think he's too short?
Yeah, I'll go for the bigger price horse.
Fair dues.
leave him put up another horse. That way, one of us will surely get the winner. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
something for the marketing bods to scream about when one goes in.
I thought Pop ran too bad the last time to be true, and Kevin Brogan is on him today, so he's 21.0. That could be a sneaky one as well.
What, you're not allowed that if that wins, Deasy. What you can do though is you can kick us off with the next contest with the conditional, because Rix has already mentioned this horse. We mentioned David Bridgewater, and in this next race at Ascot, the 3 o'clock, the Silver Cup Handicap Chase, you are in the conditionals camp, yes?
I am, and I actually backed the conditional at a big price for the Gold Cup early this week, just on a kind of a back to lay strategy, we'll say. I think that when he won in the Ultimate last year, he was very well handicapped. I think that he'd probably, I think it's between him and Espoir de Guy for this, although Espoir de Guy is going up a lot in trips, so that would kind of be against him. But I think the conditional will have to go up and win this, and will probably go up there another 11 or 12 pounds, and he'll have to be going into graded company and up into the highest level. He's only 8, rising 9. Hasn't had a lot of racing. Like you said, David Bridgewater is a very good trainer. He got the giant balls to the place in the Gold Cup 2 years in a row at massive prices. And I'm kind of hoping the condition will do the same this year. So I would be fairly strong on him to win this, and he's 4.5 at the moment, which I think is a nice enough win-only price.
Can you run us through some of the other prices up there?
Yeah, so the conditional is 4.5, Espoir de Guy is 5.6, Quarenta is 7.6, Regal Encore is 8.0, Ardletton is 9.8, Beware the Bear is 14.5, Mr. Malarkey is 16.0, Enfant Roi is 17.5, Flying Angel is 18.5, Sub-Lieutenant is 24.0, and Faubourg Resetgris is 26.0.
See, what I do on Racing TV when I get to the bigger prices and I can't say the name, I just leave it. I just say 16 to 1 bar. Much easier.
But I tried that a while ago and you took the piss out of me for doing that. Not going on.
You can't win.
What can they do? Like,
if I can butt in on Espoir de Guy, is the horse probably at the market that I'd want to be against. If this was over 2.5 again, I'd be keen, but I can't. I think the ground will be fine. I just can't say hand on heart that the trip is going to suit. And I think he was helped by the loose horse last time, just keeping him true and keeping him straight. Could still be well ahead of his mark. I can't remember what went wrong at Cheltenham. I think something wasn't right with the horse at Cheltenham. Before that, he'd had a panic attack in the horse box. That was right. Then went to Cheltenham, and obviously off the back of a big old absence. If it's testing ground at this trip, I'd want to be against. And I like Quarenta. I followed the horse a few times, and I don't think I've ever backed him when he's won. I definitely backed him on the day after Boxing Day at Kempton when he was beaten by Just a Sting. I remember that. He was brought down in the Ultimate at Cheltenham. I didn't actually back him that day. I think I backed the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th that day, so I still hate the conditional. But I thought he was good, beating Wandering Star last time over course and distance. I thought £5 rise was very fair. He's proven on testing ground, proven at the track, and I think the yard are still going strong. Quite often, I find they start the season quite well, and then as the winter comes, they just go through a quiet patch. They've been flying along. Their strike rates, I think, in the high teens consistently this year, so they're still going along nicely. I think helped by a good crop of young riders there. But Quarenta for me, and I think Rixie, we had a chat beforehand. I think you're in Quarenta camp as well.
Yeah, I am, but it's under the proviso that I think the last John Joe O'Neill winner I backed was Iris's Gift in a Stairs Hurdle about 20 years ago. It's just not a yard I can get right, to be honest. I rarely back their horses, so but I do think he's got a very good chance here. I would echo the thoughts with maybe Espoir de Guy in terms of the trip. It is a little bit of an unknown, and obviously Ascot on softer or maybe even heavy ground come Saturday is definitely not a track that you want to be experimenting with trips ideally. I thought he had the complete run of the race the last day as well when he won at Ascot. He got a good ride from Charlie Judge, but he's only a 6-year-old. He's very likeable, and he's going to be progressing. Mr. Malarkey, the Colin Tizard horse, couldn't back with any confidence. Beware the Bear, maybe he's going to want much quicker ground. The conditions, well, I know he's won on soft, but I would be a little bit worried if this ground got very heavy now. I think he's a lovely moving horse, this lad. I think not kind of soft ground I think is nice for him, especially kind of soft spring ground. He clearly handles that, but I'm not totally convinced he wants kind of heavy, proper wintry ground. So I'm happy to take him on at the prices. And look, I landed on Croenta. It's funny, actually, the John Joe O'Neill horse and Esper de Guy, they both ran at Ascot on the same day. Esper de Guy, obviously over 2 miles, 5 furlongs, and Croenta over 3 miles. And I just thought it was interesting that their final circuit times, carrying the same weight, were near identical. I think Esper de Guy clocked 205.25, Croenta clocked 205.8. So not a whole lot in there, but Croenta was marginally quicker from 3 out to the line. But yet, this day, or on Saturday, should I say, he's going to be carrying significantly less weight than him. So I just thought he was probably going to be the best handicapped horse in the race. He's got loads of form on proper soft ground. His jumping was a little bit airy the last day. It flattened out as it went on. But I thought what really impressed me was how him and the runner-up, the Kim Bailey horse, were pulling away from the rest of the horses at the line. And, I think sometimes you don't really associate John Joe O'Neill horses winning first time up. I do think his horses tend to improve at racing and tend to improve with running on the track. So I'm hoping he can take another step forward here again today. And even though the O'Neill yard I can never get right, I think he was probably my most solid bet at the weights of the whole weekend. I do realise that sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but I'm hoping John Joe can do me a favour here on Saturday.
And Jonesy, complete our thoughts on the Silva.
Yeah, I thought it was very straightforward. I thought the conditional had an outstanding chance, and I was surprised when Dees said it's 4.5, was it, Dees?
4.5. Yeah.
I think that's a very fair price, because you look through his form and it is rock solid in the context of this race. He was second in the Ladbrokes Trophy last year. He went on to win the Ultima at Cheltenham, which I thought was an extraordinary performance, considering the mistake he made at the second last would have stopped most horses from finishing in the frame, and he still managed to get back up to win it. He didn't have a run this season before he went to Newbury, and turning for home, I thought he was going to win. And maybe it was just the fact that he hadn't had a run, or maybe the ground was just a bit on the quick side for him, because I unlike Rixie, I think he does want soft ground. And it was a great run, I thought, when third to Cloth Cap at Newbury last time. And with that run behind him, I just can't see anything touching him. I'm not as confident as Dees by backing him for the Gold Cup. I think but fair play. I backed a horse called Thomas Patrick for the Gold Cup at about 1,000,000 to 1 before he ran in the Ladbrokes Trophy. And then he pulled up in the Ladbrokes Trophy and he was 2,000,000 to 1. And I didn't go in again. I have to say, I didn't go in again. But I think the conditional...
What happened to Thomas Patrick?
Yeah. He didn't fulfill his promise that he looked like he might do at one point.
Yeah. I backed him for that Ladbrokes Trophy. I remember it. Him and Anthony Honeyballs met. Anyway, we digress. But that went wrong for both of them. All right, so basically, Croenta against the conditional for both of us there. And if Espoir de Guy goes and bolts up on the bridle and stays every inch of the 3 miles, we'll look like fools. The next contest... Exactly. The next contest is tough. The most open race of the week, and goodness me, you have a shortlist as long as my arm for this. So we'll go to our handicap expert, Steve Jones, to kick us off with this. Have you got a strong fancy? I mean, genuinely, is it a race where you found it hard to put a line through any of them?
I found it really baffling, to be honest. And the one I've come down on, the race at Newbury in February. Similar race, it's often won by a novice. So I'm going to go for a novice who's never won over hurdles. And this might sound crackers, but Time Flies By, who's owned by JP McManus, trained by Nicky Henderson. I think this is a very interesting horse off a mark of 129. It's his handicap debut. He's had 3 runs in novice hurdles. 2 of them were last season behind the likes of Master Debonair, Harry Senior at Cheltenham. And that was over a bit further. And you can see why they want to run him over a bit further, because he's clearly got a bit of stamina, but he does travel very well. For me, that says he wants a really strong pace, a big field handicap like this. I thought at Ascot on his reappearance, he ran second to Danny Kerwin when he was just too keen. And that's him in this sort of race where he can get a bit of cover. They're going to go a nice pace. There's a good few front runners in there. Last year's winner, Not So Sleepy. Master Debonair, another one who likes to go from the front. So I'm sure he'll get a solid pace. And off 10 stone 7, he's very unexposed. He is a bit inexperienced, but his jumping seemed fine in those novice hurdles. I know Danny Kerwin, who he finished second to last time, bombed out at Cheltenham. I wouldn't worry about that. Danny Kerwin's a good horse who doesn't like the ground that they had at Cheltenham last weekend. So, lot going for him. Time flies by. I'd be amazed if he wasn't better than 129. So, for that reason, I'm going to have a few quid on him.
Price, Dees?
9.6, having opened up 12.5.
Look out. Win and place, Jonesy.
The money is down.
I don't know about that. I would certainly go more win than place. I'm not someone who tends to have a huge amount of place bets. I would probably just have a small win bet.
Okay. Time flies by. Rixie?
Yeah, I'm with Jonesy in this one. I'm going to stick up 2 in the race if that's okay. But I do like Time Flies By as well. I think Jonesy's kind of summed up the race pretty well there. With the likes of Master Debonair, Botox Kid Commando, Not So Sleepy. Hopefully, if he behaves himself today and doesn't run around like a fucking hooligan again, there'll be plenty of pace on. And I think that's exactly what Time Flies By needs. He's twice now. He shaped it in decent novice races that he really just wants a big field end-to-end gallop over kind of circa 2 miles where he can just where basically that'll just help the jockey settle him. He's a bit of a strange horse because he jumps off kind of fine, he gets a bit keen, but he seems to get keener as the race goes on. And it kind of at Ascot, I noticed when they go down the far side, going down the hill, he does tend to get a run on his jockeys there. So maybe Aidan Coleman will just need to be a little bit aware of that. I wouldn't be as convinced as his jumping as Jonesy was. Now, I thought the last day his jumping was a bit novice-y, but it was his first run of the season. Given the colours that he's in, this could have been the plan. The drop and trip, as we said, will definitely suit. So I'm going to have a win-only bet on Time Flies By, but I'm also going to have a win-only bet on Night Edition, and it's probably I would have. What price is he, DC? Actually, Night Edition. He'll be a big price here.
He is 21.0.
Yeah, I think in terms of his rating, I think he's got a chance here. He's quite a young horse. He's only a 4-year-old. He's probably going to be progressing. You'd hope he's going to be progressing more than a lot of the horses in here. I just thought he ran very well in the Fred Winter at the festival for a young horse, kind of with lacking the experience. He was right in amongst the hustle and bustle, and it seemed no bother to him. He was jumping in among horses. Those races for young horses can really kind of scare horses and make them not run their race. But he just seemed to thrive in that environment. A couple of horses have run okay out of the race. It's maybe, it's a race for young horses. It didn't look an outstanding renewal on the day, but we're dealing with young horses that you hope can improve. I'll just be interested if there's money for him. I did read a couple of stable tours where the Pipe Yard did mention as far as 6 and 8 weeks ago that this was a plan. So maybe this has been the plan. I think this is one of the richest handicap hurdles in Europe, if I remember correctly. So a lot of horses are probably being laid out for this race. It's good to see the Pipe Yard back in good order again after a bit of a couple of seasons there. They weren't firing on all cylinders, but they're going very well now again this year. So I'd be interested to see if there was money for him. So I'm going to stick up the 2 of those.
I'll stick up 2, if you don't mind as well. Arrivederci, I sort of said that I was centering a couple of the races around that form at Haydock last time where he came down 3 out. I think he was still full of running. He just reached for it and came down, and then had the horse behind, the Twist and Davis horse we touched up, Our Power. He had form ahead of Warlord who really went and franked that form at Wetherby, and take the point about John Joe horses winning first up that Rixie mentioned as well, and that was a win first up. I quite liked his form last year, in particular behind Fiddler on the Roof at Sandown, which looks a decent level of form, and he's gone up £2 for falling last time, but I still think he could be ahead of his mark. It's interesting they've gone tongue-tie for the first time. He's looked to see out his races, but they are reaching for it, and they're a yard that just keep rolling along. So 2 John Joe horses I'm backing at Ascot. Arrivederci is the second of them. And I also thought I'd have a cheeky one. What price is Master Debonair, Dees?
Oh, he's a big price. He is 34.0.
I mean, so I would back him a much bigger bet in the place market. But I love course form. He's won at Ascot. If his only wins come at Ascot, but he loves it here. They have come when making all, and he's going to have to change that because I don't think he's going to make all because you've got Not So Sleepy and other bits of pace in there. But he loves it round here. His novice form was good, and then last time he absolutely blew out. They blamed the ground. He lost his shoe as well, whatever that means. But we talk about the Tizard horses being in and out, and I certainly wouldn't back any of those horses at short prices. But I think that's a fair price about a horse who. I know a few Shrudies back for the Supreme last year, and were you one of them, Dees?
No. Jesus.
Jesus. I mean, he looked a good horse. So yeah, I think he could still have a bit of room off that sort of mark. Winning's a stretch, but I thought he was a big old price if you can forgive last time because the ground they said he wanted a slower surface. Well, he's definitely going to get that here, and he loves the track. So it's a bit of a flyer at the prices for Master Debonair. Go on, Dees, tie it up for us.
Yeah, Master Debonair has actually 2 wins on Heavy Ascot. He beat Ribble Valley by 8 lengths and Tamarack the Mahan by 7 lengths. But I couldn't back Tizard horse. If he was 340.0 now, I might consider it. But I just think they're going so bad. I said on Twitter a few weeks ago, it all went to shit as soon as he stopped milking cows instead of focusing on the horses. He needs to get the cows back in now because when he was just a cow farmer that trained a few horses, he was brilliant at it.
He used to hate that. So I remember we went to do some filming down there. He used to hate the fact that he talks about him being a farmer. So we were doing some filming down there, and our former racing TV cameraman Clark, he's an absolute legend. We were filming right at the top of the gallops, getting his whole string like that coming up. And there's a field of about 400 cows down at the bottom, and Colin was in the distance. He went, "Don't you get any of those cows in my shot?" And Clarky was like, "How am I going to avoid them?"
But then when he had a big winner, and he was just like, "Oh, I'm just a cow farmer who trains a few horses."
Anyway. Go on, Dees.
Winner. So I'm in agreement with Arrivederci. I think that Warlar went up £7 to win that race, and Arrivederci was going to win that race, so he probably has £5 in hand, considering he only went up 2. But he's a short enough price for this. He is 9.4. So I'd have a win bet on him. And the other horse I went with then was Isolate, Alan King's horse. Now he's a 4-year-old as well. He is in the colours of Command Teddy, who landed a nice gamble in at Shelton last week. Noel Feely's colours. Now he's won twice over hurdles. He won very easy last time out. He's in here off 10 stone 6. He's 19.0. He's shorter in the books. I think that if there's money comes for him, I can see him being he could be one of the ones that are laid out. Like the most of them are laid out for this, but Isolate has a nice chunky price at 19.0, so a small win bet and a nice place bet. But again, you could have Benson went through that heavy ground at Sandown the last time, like it was like he loved it and he went up £12. He's still probably very well handicapped, but again, he's well found in the market. He's 9.0. So I stick with Isolate, go for the big price one at 19.0 and with a bit on Arrivederci.
6 horses put up for you between us all in the toughest race of the day. We still might not find the winner.
We'll get 5 places. So.
Exactly. Listen, it's probably Rixie's chance to be in flying form here. So there you go. Although not ruling out DC after last week. Right, best bets. We're over the hour, so let's get stuck into best bets. Weekend best bets. Declan Rix, kick us off.
I'm going to put up Correnta. Even though I know when he gets pulled up, I'll be kicking the virtual cat, but just because of my record of backing John Joe O'Neill horses. But I think the race sets up well for him. I'm happy to back Correnta, so I'm going to stick with him.
DC, your best bet this weekend?
of the races we covered, I would say Drumcliff in the 150 at Ascot. He's 11.0. I think he's a great chance. And I just want to give a shout out as well to Silva Eclipse in the last race at Haydock in the 315. I put him up a few weeks ago as a reserve and he didn't get in, but he has an outstanding record at Haydock. I think he's never been out of the first three on heavy ground. He's in a handicap hurdle here now. His mark has come down a bit this year. He is going to be about 10.0. So him as well.
Fair price. A couple there for Deasy. Jonesy, best bet?
It's a bit of a quandary for me because if I put up the conditional, I'm taking on Rixie, and if I say Smarty Wild, I'm taking on Deasy. So if I had bigger bollocks, I would say Smarty Wild, but I'm going to go with the conditional. I think very, very solid.
Yeah, the conditional. I thought they were big. I thought that's why you were so slow between the wickets, Jonesy.
They're as big as that.
I can't wait for this to go out on all the social media stuff now. All the lads' weekend's best bets, and Jonesy's talking about the size of his balls. Great stuff.
That's why I'm higher up than Declan.
Yeah, he's off
because I'm sat on them.
Oh, I love it. My best bet. I want to give a shout out to Itchy Feet, who I was hoping was going to be a bit of value in that graduation chase, but I see
you are
the best.
You are such an Ollie Murphy fanboy.
I'm such an Ollie Murphy fanboy. He's in really good nick at the moment, and the horse wasn't when he last ran, but he's around about the 2.1 mark. So I'm not going to go for that as a best bet because that's just silly. I think Our Power's a great best bet for me. Our Power, having been unlucky last time and coming down last time, I think go a fair bit better here. That's it. We got through it. Well done, everyone. DC, no pressure off the back of last week.
Oh God, yeah, 5 out of 7 last week. We only covered 6 races this week, so.
and we took longer to do it this week. Rixie, good to have you back. Who was at the door, Rixie?
The postman, but he's not Pat.
But the missus wasn't in, so he left.
No, she's with the milkman.
Jonesy, thanks very much for keeping the tone up there. Lovely stuff.
Don't forget to vote Holly Doyle.
Vote Holly in Spotty. I think she's into second fav now. Agree. We'll leave it at that. Vote Holly. Bye-bye.